Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or hopefully a lot of money on the internet. Load up discussion today. We've got crypto bouncing back. Potentially the US government shutdown is ending and potentially 2K stimulus checks incoming. We'll bring you the updates on that. Today, we've got the UK unveiling £20,000 cap on stablecoin holdings in proposed rules. And we'll be talking towards the end of the show about the MegaETH cut of ICO participant allocation for publicly seeking to hedge. That has got the timeline talking a lot today. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs and a general market discussion as usual. So stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary and Bread in the co-host seat with me today. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky and we do not know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Monday. It is the 10th of November. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, doing quite well. I mean, market's not looking bad. Market's coming back. I'm not eligible for the USA airdrop. Obviously, only Bread will from the three of us. So that's one airdrop I could not farm. But apart from that, I'm doing really great. Looking forward for the show. Typically, we don't really do quote unquote drama headlines, but I feel like this one has been too big with the entire timeline talking about that. So we will have to dissect this one. And I'm glad that we also have Brett with us to maybe provide a bit more insight of what we have been thinking about it.
I agree. I think typically drama headlines are not my favorite, but realistically, I was trying to scroll through Twitter and find some other headlines or just other bits of news, and I couldn't tell whether there's literally nothing else going on today. You can see from the snapshot, which is pinned at the top of the spaces. I was looking for news today, and I couldn't find any. I don't know if that's because every single person was obsessing over this one particular bit of news, which we'll talk about, or whether there was actually really nothing going on over the weekend, apart from some of the important macro stuff, which we'll also talk about today. So we will get into that as usual and catch up with the other main headlines too. Bread, check.
My timeline was literally only two things on the weekend. It was ICOBeast, and it was Brian Johnson doing 5 grams of magic mushrooms and the trip report on that.
I saw something to do with that. Maybe my proportion was much lower, but that's because you always go on your longevity juice cleanses, creatine, whatever, golf playing binges. So I think that's why your timeline's more optimized for that. By the way, I don't know if that's your official health mix. I probably messed that up a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah, it's a bit more than that, but I like that you put golf in that bracket. You know, Easy, who's also listening to the show, who is on a golf playing spree, will like to hear that this is part of apparently my longevity plan.
Well, if it isn't, it should be, because I feel like that is a core part of our future well-being. So that's that. Bread, checking in with you, my man. How was your weekend? Quite eventful, I suspect. Looking a bit tired, I might say there, but you're here as usual.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what day it is this time?
I do.
Friday, you seemed a bit uncertain.
Yeah, I do. Thankfully, I actually woke up and I didn't know the time. I was like, I got another hour and a half. Good. And then Allison's like, aren't you going to your show soon? It's like, fuck. Yeah, I do. Yeah. All right. So brain's a little scrambled. ICO was the one catching the flack over the weekend, and that streak got extended this morning. I'm finding out. So like that's fun. And then, yeah, I had like a minor arc in the same direction as him. I made some posts trying to discuss nuance yesterday on some hyperliquid shit, and everyone started roasting me. I was like, guys, like,
with something completely separate on hyperliquid.
Yeah. Like it was literally just like a separate thing where it's like, oh yeah, like because it was around ICO or around airdrops, right? And someone that I follow quote tweeted said like hyperliquid's airdrop, and I was like, yeah, you know what, like. I don't really even I don't consider it much of an airdrop because, like, you know what, like, dude, people were getting liquidated, people were getting paid fees, like, that money was going somewhere. It's like it's kind of like that people paid into the protocol, and in exchange they got tokens probably proportionate to the amount that they paid in the protocol. And it's like, in my mind, that's kind of an ICO. Like it's more ICO like than an instance where you're getting free tokens just for existing, like a IP. Like I have IP tokens. I didn't do shit for IP. I never touched them, never talked about them. They just gave me tokens. So I said that, and dude, the army's just like, bro, you don't know anything about hyperliquid. They don't profit anything. I'm like, guys, like, it's a Sunday. I'm just trying to talk with the bros about like a characteristic nuance about a protocol. It's like, let me live. Jesus Christ.
That's your mistake, man. characteristic
Oh man,
nuance, trying to
yeah.
discuss these things.
On
That's your
Twitter.
mistake. That's
Yeah,
your mistake.
yeah, yeah. So it just seemed like every angle everyone was fighting this weekend, and it was just like, I was trying not to participate.
I mean, if I just take one step back with all this stuff, you remember maybe a few weeks ago, I just started talking about how I think again, people can debate where we are, but certainly we're not at the beginning of a cycle, right? So like whatever innings we're in towards the end, I think people get way more agitated, way more anxious, way more yeah, I think agitated is the right word, because they're trying to grasp at the things which might be slipping away from them as the time left to make the money is closing. As the window is closing, people become far more anxious. And I think that manifests in some of this type of behavior, just like getting more angry at people more generally. I think it also manifests in a lot of the hacks we've seen as people try to ship things faster, and maybe making mistakes by mistake because they're trying to ship faster, or maybe intentionally. I've read a bunch of stuff suggesting that a certain proportion of the hacks are kind of created internally, as although I suspect that's hard to verify, but I can imagine that would be the case, right? If you think that if you're getting towards the end of a cycle. So I don't know. I see it a little bit through that lens, taking one step back. I know it's painful to go through as an individual, but when you take one step back and you just see like this anxiety, I find I'm kind of looking at it in that perspective. Does that make any sense to you, Brad? How do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to deduce what was causing all of it, and I was like,
Yeah,
man,
like
like
what's the
maybe
cause?
it's like, yeah, like like everyone's is getting anxious. I think anxious, you use the appropriate word for that, whether they think it's the end of the cycle, or because they're seeing people making money around them, or because they just think like, yeah, market's not healthy, they're regretting decisions, whatever. I'm personally not of that opinion. It's like, I'm fine riding this up for a while. And we're literally going to talk today about like, oh, everything's feeling great again. It was like, because like, yeah, last month or last week, like the world was on fire and the industry was ending. And then like, oh, all of a sudden the US government shutdown is over. We're getting $2,000 checks and like, shit, man, bull market's back on. Bears are fucked. It's like, guys, like it's been a week, chill. Like, so yeah, I do think it is a lot of anxiety. I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So look, we're going to circle back to that probably as towards the end of the show, when we're going to be talking the MegaETH allocations and the pretty strong stance that they took to zero out ICO's allocation, which was a large allocation. But we'll get to that towards the end of the show. We've got some other important headlines first as well. And let's get you up to speed with everything you need to know beforehand, starting with the price action, looking at Bitcoin. We've got Bitcoin up a few percent to 105,000. Got ETH up almost 5% as well to 3.5K. Got XRP up 11% to $2.50. BNB is flat at $995. Sol's up 5% as well to back to $167. And Hyperliquid, where's Hyperliquid? Up around 6% as well to almost 42. On the meme coin side of things, we've got Doge up 4% back to 18 cents. Pepe's up a couple of percent. Trump's up 13%, $8.40. Pump is up 17%. Pump is you could really just trade Pump in this range, couldn't you? Between, I don't know, whenever it drops beneath ICO and just trade it back up to above the ICO. You could do that over and over again, at least for now. Pengu's up 10% as well. Bonk's up 5%. SPX is up 6%. So, some of these meme coins catching a bid. Fart coins up almost 10% as well. Rect is up 12.5% too. Getting into the headlines themselves and what we're going to be touching on today. We've got crypto bouncing back on news. The US government shutdown is coming to a close. And there are suggestions of a 2K stimulus check for American citizens. So Legendary will break down to what extent that will be the case. We've got the UK unveiling £20,000 cap on stablecoin holdings in proposed rules. We'll just get into, I don't know if anyone actually read that headline properly, so we'll just read it and see if that but I probably need to look into it more myself as well. Starknet's up 33% to a 1.8 bill FDV. Well, Liberty Fi is up 25% on the day as well, back to a $15 billion FDV. And as I said, Pengu's up 10% as well. Some notable sales on the NFT side. Beeple GigaChad sold for 20 ETH. We had a Matt Kane Gazer selling for 6.36 ETH. In terms of other collections, Penguins are back up 4% to back above 6 ETH. Bored Apes are also above 6 ETH at around 6.30. Moonbirds up 10% to 2.1 ETH. And I think that's the main activity on the NFT side. Meebits also up 10% to just over 0.5 ETH. Getting into the rest of the roundup, as I said, I couldn't really find much more today. We've got hardware wallet producer Ledger considering New York IPO or fundraise, according to the Financial Times. I think that is big news. And then after that, Athena's season 4 airdrop went live for claim. Season 5 will run for another 6 months. Athena being one of those tokens that I think so highly of the founder, think so highly of the product, but I guess there's all kinds of sell pressure still on that token. So I'd be curious to look at when, I think the airdrop seasons will continue to run, but just watching for when the VC sell pressure ends at some point in time. But that's the roundup for today. Legendary, before we get into the main stuff, is there anything catching your attention there? And is there anything I missed? Like, is it me? Was there a lot less stuff to cover today? What are your thoughts?
No, it feels like there wasn't anything else going on that seemed significant. So nothing to even comment on the Web3 roundup today, to be honest.
Fair enough. I'm going to come to Brad first, and then would love to get Easy into the conversation, who's up with us as a speaker, seeing if there's anything that's catching his attention in the market. Brad, coming to you first, though, before we get into the main stuff. Anything caught your eye? Anything taking your interest? What's on your mind?
I'm just woken up and dealing with this ICO stuff. So I am more interested to hear about what Easy has to say, and then hopefully I'll have a more complete picture of everything. This is a little bit of a whirlwind to wake up to. So yeah,
I get it. We get it. Well, we'll get it. Definitely go to gather your thoughts, because you're taking that section towards the end of the show. So gather your thoughts. Easy, welcome to the stage, my man. Good to have you with us for the first time in a while. How you doing? What's going on in your world? What's going on in the market? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I love your guys' show. I don't always get to listen live, but I do. I'm an avid listener of Modern Market. You guys do an incredible job. But no, it's good to be here. I'm excited for the back half of the show to talk to MegaETH situation. I posted some of my tweets and went back and forth on some of it. I get it. Like, I do get it. Do I think it was the right move? Probably not. Do I think that the terms and services make sense? Absolutely. But aside from that, just the overall market as a whole, I do think the bottom for this sell-off is in, personally. Do I think we see the Q4 rally? Probably, but not in the same way a lot of people are thinking. I think we're going to see bits and pockets continue to run. I mean, Zcash has been on an absolute tear. Mert dunked on me for shorting it, and then I flipped long because he dunked on me, and a bunch of bald-headed individuals attacked me. So I was like, all right, this is crazy. But I like that. I've been publicly posting too about Monero catching like a follow bid because it's so difficult to buy that fucking coin. And yesterday it was up 24%. So I was like pretty happy about that, because the thesis was like pretty simple. You saw Dash run and Monero was still lagging, and then it finally got legs. So I was just like, if this privacy thing is real, you're gonna see people buy the like secondary and tertiary coins, which is exactly what we saw. So I like that. And then obviously government shutdown seems like it's going to be ending here in the next 5 days at most, which to me is a great sign, purely on the back of like, if you listen, I do all the mention market stuff. I really enjoy the prediction market stuff. So I listen to the FOMCs like very intently. And the most recent one, what I think a lot of people kind of overlooked, was Jerome Powell basically saying that December's rate cut expectations are not guaranteed, solely because of the fact they do not have data. And without the government shutdown, we don't get job reports, we don't get PPI and CPI data. And without that, it's tough for them to make a decision. However, getting this and seeing the November 15th deadline occur, or the November 15th government restart occur, that's going to allow us to get the data in advance of the December market and the December FOMC. So I think that actually opens up an opportunity here for us to have said data And potentially what I think is going to happen is get one more rate cut this year. And then going into next year, it's already pricing in. If you use FedWatch for the rate cut likelihoods, they're pricing in 2 to 3 rate cuts. And this is all still with Powell as the head of the Fed for all of this, who's historically not really been in alignment with Trump. And when Trump gets to appoint a new chair, the likelihood for even more rate cuts is fairly high. We also have them addressing a lot of the stuff that Powell was saying is kind of the main causes of concern, which are jobs and housing. Housing's unaffordable for many. They've teased the 50-year mortgage, which I want to look more into it. But there is an opportunity that could open up the doors for more affordable long-term housing for younger generations. So there's stuff like that I'm like, okay, this is actually setting up for 2026 to be fairly strong. Like, that's the thing that I'm like, okay, this is where I'm mostly interested. For a while, I've been saying I'm interested in Q2 exiting late Q2, but all these things kind of depend and change on like where the market ebbs and flows are going. And if we do get a better Fed chair, one that's more aligned with more cuts, I want to basically be buying and holding until it's starting to shape up that cuts are going to be paused or stopped. Because once you can get into that mindset and listen to some of the words being said, where a Fed chair turns somewhat hawkish and says rates are in a good place and we're not sure what we're going to do moving forward, that's where I want to exit. Because, yeah, we are a little bit frothy. You have OpenAI raising at $1 quadrillion, it feels like, which if you're familiar with equities and like TradFi stuff, a lot of people are saying that raise feels like it's going to be what's similar like an exit scam in crypto, where they're just going to raise as much capital as possible and that's going to be it. So I'm kind of interested in some of these factors. Sorry for the long-winded rant.
That's super interesting, man. So loads of different directions we could take that. One follow-up question is then, how much have you as a trader decided to exit crypto into some of these other things that are taking a lot of people's interest? Like, you know, there was definitely a point where everyone on crypto got obsessed with gold for the first time. It was somehow realized that this precious metal existed. And then there's been all this talk of, you know, AI being the big opportunity now, and, you know, having as much volatility in those stocks, it kind of calls into question why you need to participate in crypto when you can buy Tesla on the dip, and then, you know, a few months later after the tariff dip, it's, you know, 1.5x or, you know, 60-70% higher than it was. So like, do we need to participate as pure traders in this market when you can get that on humongous actual companies that are, you know, world leading in their field? So curious for your thoughts in that regard.
I mean, I trade everything. So I've always traded equities. I've traded equities before crypto. I did not participate in the gold run. I've done well in like silver previously, but I didn't trade any gold this go around. Just for me, it was like that's more of a leading indicator for whether more of the risk on assets are going to trend. So seeing gold run as hard as it did, and now since kind of cool off and pull back, I'm more interested in like other risk on assets. From the equity standpoint, with this 50-year mortgage and the housing stuff, I've become increasingly interested in stuff like Opendoor. I've been a Robinhood bull for a very long time, and they're getting into the mortgage ecosystem. So that to me is where I'm like, I want to spend more of my time. I think that from the finance side of things, it's better to bet on one or two of the fastest horses than like chase some of these new IPOs and some of these new ones that are just like really running. But like my Robinhood entry was just sub $40, and I have a target of 200 before a split, which I probably will end up holding through, just because I think all these like Gen Z, Zoomers, etc., are on their phones anyway. So why not bet on a finance app that's trying to be the do everything finance app for younger generations? And then similarly for Opendoor, the more I look into it, Pio's been like a crazy bull on it, and I didn't buy as early as I should have. But I think he's right. I think that as someone who's recently bought a house, and the process that it took, it was some of the worst friction I've ever experienced. It was like trying to bridge to a brand new chain back in 2021. And it was just like, wow, this fucking sucks. Like, there's just a lot of friction. So if whoever can find these ease and make stuff easier for younger generations is going to win these races. So I'm like, yeah, let me just bet on these. As far as like equities though, and like, should you do equities or crypto? There's still so much opportunity in crypto that I think if you missed it, you feel like you are missing everything. But if you've hit them, you realize that like every month there's something right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Because we cast the last month, Aster the month before that. And then quite literally every month there's a trade to be made that you can, it's a PVE style trade. It's just not in like quote the meme coin trenches anymore, which I think so many people are stuck in that mindset of like, I have to buy this 70 to 100K market cap coin for it to run to 100 mil. It's like, no, you can buy something that's a top 50 coin that moves up to top 20 and just with size. And it's like, look, Zcash is the best example, dude. Like that chart is the most ridiculous chart ever. 2 days ago, it dropped from 680 to 504, and it's now almost $700. You know, so it's like dips are for buying on some of these things that are showing clear strength, and I think you just don't shy away from that.
Love it. One final one, easy for people, like, as you said, looking for opportunity. Liquid, as you said, you've got like a bunch of opportunities with things that are showing strength like Zcash. What about like airdrop activity, like farming protocols? I know you mentioned you're very big on prediction markets. You're enjoying them a lot, spending a lot of your time looking on there. I've been a bit more skeptical, maybe. I love it from a data perspective. I love it from an information perspective. And I think some of the integrations are really, really good. But how have you been kind of exploring them? What do you think is the best way to find value in them on the information side and as a kind of better? How have you been looking at that?
I mean, from an information side, it's the best source of information. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of which one you use, it's hands down the best source of information. They're right more times than they're wrong. So why not just use it as a data resource? Like, you can take a Dune Analytics dashboard and combine it with Polymarket data, and I feel like you're going to have an edge on the market. You know, just see where people are actually putting their financial capital and what odds they're betting on these things. And that to me is like the most interesting side of it. You know, I think from the airdrop side of things, I haven't really been airdrop farming. I just don't think it's like EV positive for time. Like Monad was pretty good to the community side. It seemed on the day 3 box allocations. That's when the community really got rewarded. For like the KOL side of things, I hate the fucking word, but like all those individuals got rewarded day 1. So I think that was good. And just purely from like building social capital is the most interesting thing. I didn't get to participate in MegaETH because my dumbass applied too late for Echo, and then they sold to Coinbase, so my account was kind of put on pause before while they did that whole thing. But I'm interested in it, and like the dApps on that ecosystem, I really want to get involved in. Like I think it's Euphoria, is like the up down one. That it just seems fun, dude.
Yeah,
like that seems very fun. So I mean, I'm a gambling man, so I like that stuff. But I think from outside of that, I think like just consciously going and airdrop farming isn't really the best use of time. From the prediction market side of things, I think if you are going to farm something, though, I know I work with Polymarket, but like under farmed would be Myriad. Like you can take $5,000 and place in the top 100 pretty effortlessly. And I don't think you consciously go out there and wash volume. I think you just go and use it as if you would use it anyway, and just be conscious of shorter dated executions on trades and watch yourself accrue points. Like it's clear tokens coming. They announced the Rug Genesis and Rug token stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is probably going to happen sooner than later, and there's still time to do it. Obviously, as a gambling man, I like ETH. I work with ETH, but I think that's another one that's going to surprise a lot of people. Just because, dude, it's crypto native, and it's some of the best crypto native people that you could possibly have in KBM and Mando. So I'd be like, yeah, just throw some stuff on some low odd chances and just press the auto bet, and you'll probably end up getting a larger airdrop than anything you lose, unless you're legendary and then you just hit fucking 1400 X's on limbo like an absolute degenerate.
Indeed, that's part of our thesis as well. Unfortunately, we don't all have legendary luck in that way, but appreciate your thoughts, man. It's really, really good to have you hang with us today. Definitely stick around. We're going to be getting to that MegaETH segment in a little bit, so we'll go through a couple of the other important headlines first. But thanks for your thoughts, man. Absolutely love it. Great to have you with us up top today. Right, we're going to get to the rest of the headlines, but before we do that, just a shout out to our sponsor for today, which is Tria. Today's show is sponsored by Tria, the self-custodial neobank building the future of payments for both humans and AI. Tria unifies spend, trade, and earn across all chains, giving you one powerful platform to manage your assets securely without ever giving up control. With up to 6% cashback on your Tria Visa card, you're rewarded every time you spend. Backed by $12 million in pre-seed and strategic funding, Tria is creating the infrastructure layer for the next generation of on-chain finance, and they've just been taking interest for their Legion sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Good news coming out of that market. It seems like we are seeing an earlier end of the government shutdown than expected. As of last week, the poly markets on that were thinking at large that it's going to go beyond November 16th. Now that has turned, as there is a bill which has been signed, still needs to, a funding deal across the aisle, so to speak. It still needs to pass the House before it will be headed to President Donald Trump's desk for signature, but it did pass the Senate vote, voted 60-40. So that is a good sign in the market. Just also checking in with the poly market, which I mentioned on that, that is up 55% to 86% now on the question, when will the government shutdown end? And now we do think, as we said earlier on the show, that it will end anywhere this week. So between November 12th, November 15th, that is now up to 86%, whereas like last week, these odds were more in the 25 to 30%-ish range. Couple of analysis coming out of that, the blog article, which I've been quoting from, is obviously in line with what we've been speaking about on the show, which is to do with the fact that also Easy mentioned before, we didn't have job reports, we didn't have all of the data that did lead to a bit more uncertainty, that also did lead to uncertainty as to what the Fed would be doing going forward in December. And adding to that, Peter Chung from Prest Research is also saying that it also had the effect, the prolonged shutdown, that is, of draining liquidity in the overnight funding market. That added to more volatility, which we've certainly seen in crypto in a way, way stronger way than in traditional equities. Now, that is one side of things, the earlier end of the shutdown. And then the other side is that President Donald Trump did post on Truth Social yesterday saying this. Great, I now get a capture when I want to read that post. Let me see if it gets back up. There we go. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are the highest ever. We're taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, 37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. So that COVID-like US STIMI, US airdrop definitely added fuel to that fire and has increased some of the optimism in the market.
Yeah, I did see that. I think that definitely got people excited again. I think the immediate connection people want to draw to this is kind of linking it to COVID, what happened when you had previous handouts. Personally, I don't think it's in the same bracket. I think I'm not entirely certain how it was rolled out in the States. I know for a fact in the UK, it was done in a really haphazard way, really mismanaged, money going everywhere, no one knowing entirely how it was accounted for, a lot of abuse of the system. It doesn't sound like this is one of those moments. It's not a national emergency right now in the States, or at least they're not going to present it like that. This is more just like a potential stimulus. So I don't think there's the scope for wide scale mismanagement of this, for example, I guess is my point being made. So I don't think it'd be the kind of euphoric, like, oh, wow, everyone's going to take their 2K and spray it, and then we're going to kick off some bull run. So I think that's maybe what some people started to feel because they wanted to make that connection. I don't think it's in that bracket personally. But I'd be curious, Funky, from your perspective. I was also looking a little bit more on, I think Besant spoke after this tweet, and it felt like they were maybe trying to row this back and say, look, this is, you know, how Trump might tweet whatever the hell he feels like every now and again, and then it's up to Besant and Lutnick to, you know, make sense of it and make it digestible for people. It sounded like, you know, that $2,000 might not be literally cash in the bank. It might be in the form of no tax on tips, you know, various other policies which should end up putting more money in your pocket, but not necessarily a specific cash policy. But we'd be curious to hear Funky, our US political correspondent's specific take on, well, the roundup, because not the roundup, the shutdown, because he was very bullish on the potential shutdown happening sooner. Sorry, the end to the shutdown coming sooner than otherwise. So Funky, what are your thoughts here?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I think that just shutdown ending is great, right? The fact that the Senate has come to some sort of deal is a great sign. We just need to make sure that this actually passes, right? This is not official yet. So that's number one. Number two, I have no clue what this $2,000 is going to look like, because it would be something that would have to be passed legislatively, would have to be part of a package. There's nothing right now that already exists, right? Like the no taxes on tips, that was all part of the big beautiful bill. That wasn't anything, that's already done and dealt with. So this would have to be some kind of new package. Now, what's interesting is the deal that was struck in the Senate was for very specific departments to be opened again, like veteran affairs and some other key ones that are essential. Some furloughed workers are going to be coming back. There was a list of what this deal enabled. The continuing resolution, which again is sort of the stopgap measure that they use to fund the government, is going to roll through, I think, January 30th. And then they're going to have to figure this out. Otherwise, it's just going to happen all over again. So there's a lot to unwind just from this particular Senate deal. And then once it gets passed, where the $2,000 is going to come from, I have no idea. So I do know there were some good analyses that were put out, sort of just to your point, be likening it to COVID, and the thresholds, if they were to maintain what they were before, like $150,000 was the max for a married household. So those high income earners would be the ones who wouldn't be getting a stimulus, right? So it would be most of those people that are downstream of that, how much they're going to be jumping into crypto, because I think people just translate that as, oh my gosh, it's stimmies raining from the sky. But you got to remember, like, the world was shut down, very different place. It wasn't the same kind of day and time like it is in 2025, where people are struggling to buy groceries and put food on the table. The people who are going to be getting this dividend from tariffs or whatever you want to call it are people who need money. They're not going to be coming to speculate on crypto. So I'm excited to see what lays ahead. I'm really looking forward to the next Blockchain Association meeting, because I'm sure that will be happening next week, and there'll be a lot of chatter around this. So hopefully I'll have to report back next week.
Like it. Appreciate your thoughts as always, Funky. You mentioned an important point there, which I've been thinking about a bunch, which is, maybe this matters a little bit less moving forward, but I do feel like crypto's is losing the conversation with maybe the younger generation. Like, I think you've got this middle generation who's made a bit of money out of it and is very pro it, maybe for some of its ideals that they liked at the beginning. But if you speak to younger people, I don't think they're particularly keen. And for the people who got burned in the last cycle, they came in and they disappeared. Almost everyone that I know that was less full time than me and was maybe doing it a little bit more recreationally, maybe they participated and then they left. So I'm not certain that it's winning the conversation with some of the younger people. And if you look at the people who are winning the conversation with younger people, with maybe something we haven't touched on the show recently, but Mamdani was elected in New York not long ago, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost certain his stance on Bitcoin, as is maybe the general Democratic stance on Bitcoin, still is pretty negative, proposing kind of crypto taxes and things of that nature. So I think there's something to work through there, something to think about as we continue to kind of push on. Maybe it doesn't matter because it's an institutional game now, and in the end, the price of all of these big assets are determined by the flows from the DATs and other big institutions. But something to keep in mind. Brett, coming to you here for a take before we get to the other headlines. Any thoughts on this stuff? In terms of like general market stuff, some of the stuff going on in the US at the moment?
I'm actually kind of upset that you guys said I was going to get something earlier on because I'm in the US and I was too distracted to understand or pay attention to it. So on just general US stuff, I would say that's some of my feelings. The second thing is like just general sentiment. That's all I can really talk about. This stuff, whether it's $2,000 or people coming back from not the layoffs, the government shutdown, like all that stuff, like it's so new that like I can't get a sense of it. I do know exactly where these $2,000 are going to go. if it doesn't actually come. So like, I think we can all objectively look at this as a catalyst where this stuff is going to go back to the things that probably don't deserve it, broadly. And then as we did with COVID, you're going to have people try to game the system as much as possible, right? Like we joke about the parallels between real world and crypto, but people are going to try to sybil the shit out of this and milk as much money as they can to get all of this. To remember what they did with the PP0 loans or whatever. People were just like getting it for whatever reason they could. They'd spin up fake businesses just to get the loan and then go do whatever they want. Same shit's going to happen here, which means like your unprecedented amount of money is going to go into things that probably does not belong or was not intended for. So looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that, indeed. Okay, so that's the situation on the shutdown and potential stimulus. I think that's something to just keep an eye on. Look, it's what's undoubted, as Legendary said, is that price actions have responded positively to that news, and I think a lot of liquidity has been trapped, as Funky was describing last week on the show. Within this shutdown, money's not been able to move in the way it normally does, and so I think, assuming that that does happen, we can maybe be a little bit more optimistic in the near term. Although I'm still of the opinion in general, a 4-year term is a long time. It's only been a year of Trump. I think we can chop around for a lot longer, if I'm being honest, before he then needs to turbo send it at some point in time. 4 years is a long time. I think we've got to exercise some patience. Right. Second headline for the day is the UK. And just for people, we've got a lot of people in the show today. I'm almost certain they're waiting for the final segment. At a minimum, we're going to be talking MegaETH's decision to cut ICO's allocation for publicly seeking to hedge, but we'll do that in around 10 minutes or so, for 10 minutes or so. So second headline, though, this is a pretty interesting one. This is the news that the UK, my beloved UK homeland, has decided that a £20,000 cap should be on stablecoin holdings in their proposed rules. Just so you know the actual details here, because I don't think it's what people specifically think. We're gonna just go through the actual content. So it says the UK plans to temporarily impose caps on stablecoin holdings, including £20,000 for individuals, and allow issuers to have as much as 60% of the backing assets in short-term UK government debt. The Bank of England on Monday released these proposals. So and the proposals are specifically for sterling-denominated systemic stablecoins. So on systemic retail payments, holdings by individuals would be subject to the proposed per-coin limits of £20,000. So retail businesses such as supermarkets and intermediaries servicing retail customers who may need to hold large balances of coins could be exempted from the proposed £10 million business limits. For systemic corporate payments, holdings by businesses are subject to the proposed £10 million business limit, with potential for exemptions. Their rationale for this is the regime is designed to maintain financial stability and enable systemic stablecoin issuers to operate viable business models. Up to 60% of backing assets to be held in short-term sterling-denominated government debt security. So I don't actually even think, I know the timeline has responded very strongly to this. I don't even think that this is to do with USDC, USDT. This is not dealing with capital flight, which is what maybe people thought it was initially. If you don't want to hold, the easiest way to do business around the globe now is to deal in dollars. That's just how it is. That's how we even quote people. We deal in dollars. I don't think that this regulation is saying that you're not allowed to hold £20,000 worth of US stablecoins. It's saying that you're only allowed to have £20,000 worth of sterling denominated stablecoins. So that's a very different thing to what I think people have taken it as. I think it's an important distinction to make. Obviously, we should monitor that because this is a temporary thing. Who knows, if you're capable of imposing these types of regulations on one particular type of stablecoin, I wouldn't doubt that there will be another type of regulation on another type of stablecoin moving forward, because as the EU has been speaking about for quite some time, they are more vocal about saying that the US stablecoin is a big threat to its financial stability, because people in the EU would rather deal in that than their own currency, or that's the threat that they see. So, Ledge, curious for your thoughts here on the UK. Obviously, you're based in the EU, so maybe an extension into that direction. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. I tweeted this earlier in one of the articles I read this morning. the proposed EU stablecoin is going to come in, is now slated for 2029. It's like, guys, you've got to move faster. Like, you can't say you're going to do this in 4 years time. Like, that's not okay. You're not going to be competing with anyone by that point. Who knows where the industry is by that point? But curious for your thoughts here, Ledge, before we get into the next headline.
Yeah, that EU CBDC, digital euro, I think that has a cap of 3K. You can't hold more than 3K of that, so it doesn't really matter, in my opinion. In terms of this UK thing, I agree with you. I think, yes, people have misread the article, but this would, again, be my worry as well. If you start with this regulation, who is not to say that the next thing won't be, and you can't hold more than 50K of USDC, and you cannot hold more than 50K of euro stable coins, and then like start to decrease those limits. So like, it's always easier once you have a certain regulation in place to make that stricter, lower limits, lower thresholds, and make things more annoying. So that would be my worry with it. I don't understand why, or like what the fear is necessarily. Obviously, coming from my perspective, coming from the government's perspective, it's pretty clear. Right? They don't want to lose control. They want to have control of their own monetary supply. So they don't want people to have a secondary market of pounds where they can trade with that in millions and have that go around the traditional banking system while they don't have a digital pound to offer as an alternative. So I do get where this is coming from. And from that perspective, it should be more centric on their own currency, on the pound, and you wouldn't have an incentive to extend that to dollars, euros, or other currencies. But I absolutely understand, that people are afraid of that happening as well.
Got it. Yep, I think that makes sense. I think not just the EU, not just the UK, any other international currency should be concerned about the extension of the US currency. I think it makes sense that they're concerned because people do specifically want that more. And so that's something that people are going to have to deal with moving forward. If there was any real demand for any of these things, there would be a privately created liquid stablecoin already that people would be transacting with on chain. And I think the reality is there is not. So USD dominance will continue in that respect. Look, we're going to get into the final headline in just a moment. We will be talking MegaETH, and we'll be talking the decision to cut ICO's allocation for publicly seeking to hedge. So we'll get into the details there in just a bit. Brett will take us through some of the core information and some of the decision-making thoughts. But before we do that, Legendary, we are going to our sponsored segment today. Partner Tria. What do we need to know? Their leading sales going particularly well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Just a quick recap. Tria is a self-custodial neobank that allows you to spend in over 150 countries using more than 1,000 tokens, using your Tria Visa card while earning up to 6% cashback every time you spend. Behind the scenes, Tria is running its own tech called Best Path, which is a permissionless pathfinder to have micro markets on there competing to move your money faster and cheaper and more securely across chains. It's already powering payments for more than 20 leading protocols and handling institution-grade settlements for trading and transfers. And last week, Tria did conduct a Legion sale for their upcoming TGE, which we had reported on. And that community round did draw more than 4,500 applications, 66 mil in requests, which means that is a 6,600% oversubscription of that community round. At the moment, the team is still sending out allocation mails via Legion. They're still going through all of these applications. Some of them already did go out, but not all of them. In case you missed the sale, you still can get exposure to Tria and the Tria token by using the card actively. And I did post the sign-up link for that in the comments to the show, and we'll also include it with the uploads on Apple Music and Spotify.
Love it. Shout out to Tria for partnering with us, and congratulations on a heavily oversubscribed sale. A lot of demand at the FTVs discussed. So shout out to Tria. We'll be continuing to work with them over the next couple of months, sharing some of the information and some of the details of the card, which Legendary's been using relentlessly, racking up all of that 6% cashback. So good stuff. Let's get into our final headline for the day. We're talking MegaETH. We're talking ICO, the ICO cut of ICO. Very aptly worded. Brett, coming to you here, my man. What are the details we need to know? Might need to set some context, just so people get the core information, and then maybe talk through some of the decision-making process and how things have shaken out, including maybe some of the alternative perspectives. I know Easy wants to, Easy might have dropped down now, but there were some alternative perspectives, right? So let's try to touch on those too.
Yeah, this is a fun one. So, yeah, context is Namik, who is the chief strategy officer of MegaETH, tweeted this morning that due to some terms and conditions, the team was making the decision to revoke ICOBeast's position that he won inside of the public sale. He had one of the highest allocations, earned it fairly, all that stuff. And the reasoning behind it was, again, cited in the thing. He said, like, what we had the terms and conditions that was signed as part of Sonar. We took that to counsel, both internal, like legal counsel, and counsel that would be considered friends. And through that, the decision was made to revoke it. So it was based on him publicly citing his, I think we have the tweets up, his desire to hedge and then potentially seeking, getting the put options at 40 cents and expire in January, whatever. So this specific claim, that's about it. It was just trying to stick close to what he was signed up as and honoring the spirit of the contract.
Got it. So from what I'm getting there, so two things. One, I think what followed was, honestly, I think I was saying at the top of the show, I think you were with us when I was saying it, that I was trying to find news today and all I could find was content reacting to this. So that's the one thing. People were taking the position that, look, this is a brave move for MegaETH. They have decided to align themselves with the people who are their biggest supporters. That is one potential reading of it. The other side, which I think there were some prominent people saying, which is like, look, this is not, this is a done practice. People do these things. It's not a violation of the terms, according to one prominent trader. And I think there was another, I'm just trying to get it up. I don't want to put words in people's mouths without being relatively accurate. Another perspective was this, which was, it's coming from a place of insecurity about token prices and FDV and things of that nature. What I'm hearing from you, though, is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that opinions, whether it's like right or wrong from a business perspective, is kind of not relevant. This is a legal decision, which is separate from commercial decisions. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I'll just say, so we have the ability to do whatever we want, right? Like, it's our sale. We can point to anyone for any reason and say, you're getting zero. The justification for this is the combination of, it was specifically in the terms. We got counsel to weigh in on it, to justify our decision and say, do we feel like this is something that is against the spirit of the contract? And, is it long-term, just, how we want to, or who we want to have the tokens in the hands of. So it's a balance of all things. There's no strict, like, it was specifically violating one thing because, he doesn't have the tokens yet, right? So it was a combination of, one, just looking at it, wanting to defend the actual price itself, and then saying this was the best decision for the team and for the token broadly.
Okay. Ledge, what did you think about all of this? And full disclosure, in some ways, like, we know ICOBeast well. He's I would consider a decent friend in the space who I think has participated pretty well in general across the board. Prolific writer, one of the fastest ascents, I would say, as a kind of creator in the space. Your thoughts, Legendary, reflecting on this fallout?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, before I had Brett's perspective, when I first saw it on the timeline, my thinking was that MegaETH did a ton of work to make that sale legally compliant, to have a MiCA white paper for the EU to make it compliant in the US as well. And if these are the terms and there come certain terms with having your tokens locked for a year, there's obviously then also a legal risk, and it probably becomes hard to ignore if like one of the most prominent figures speaks about breaching these terms. So my thinking was that no matter what personal feelings or opinions are on that, and as Brett said, it's their sale, they can do anything, but even from a legal perspective, that this is some risks that you want to mitigate. That was my initial reaction to that. Obviously, as a friend of ICOs, I do feel sorry for him. The thing where I think it's going too far, and that's not on Mega, that's on the entire timeline, is that not everyone feels in the position, you know, to dunk on him, ridicule him, and like post on that and weigh in on that. That is very typical of CT. That is taking it way too far, but obviously that is not neither ICOs nor MegaETH's fault. That's unfortunately the dynamic of the timeline which we are living within.
Yeah, I was trying to approach this as like like doing the neutral, like this is the thing that we did. Like, so obviously ICOBeast is a friend of mine as well. So I am on the same side where like it is unfortunate. I feel it. I'm trying to manage this relationship because obviously it comes as a conflict of things, and there's a lot going on here specifically for this. But like the general thing is, yes, there are terms and conditions. We are, as you said, trying to be as compliant as possible. We saw this being done. We saw it. Council recommended or said that it is closer to bad than good. And based on that and counsel that we received, not from like legal, but from friends, we reached across the industry. This is not something that was just made willy-nilly this morning. Through all of those people, it was just decided to say, hey, you know, we think it is in the best interest of MegaETH, of the token, of the sale itself, that, you know, if this is being done, we need to go in this direction. So yeah, there's a lot of unfortunate stuff for MegaETH, for me specifically, because of, again, my relationship with ICO. I'm trying to talk to him now. But it was just it almost feels kind of Game of Thronesy to me, where it's like, if there was like an omnipotent person that was aware of everything in the full context of everyone, and you could see literally everything, then it wouldn't have worked out the way that it is. And you see it and you go, oh man, that sucks. But because not everyone has that power, and you see everything through the lens that you see the world, just led to a series of events that led to this, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think one of the things which there's a, when I used to be a defamation lawyer in London, and one of the rules when it comes to like publication of things, and it's not, you know, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but one of the rules when you're trying to decide if someone has defamed someone, and again, there's no defamation here, this is just a different example, is the style of publication and the size of the account. And I think one of the things that's happened here is that one of the points that some people are making is that, you know, people do this anyway. It's very difficult to enforce from a legal perspective, even if someone was to do it, even if it is against the terms. But I think so two things. One, the public nature of the communication, A, is, I mean, you're literally publishing it out. And then B, the size of the account means that it just reaches more people, which I guess from your perspective, can have a far more potentially damaging, and again, I'm mixing metaphors a little bit here because it's not a defamatory situation, but from a commercial perspective, it's reaching far more people, and therefore it gives you a decision to make, right? Whereas if it was a small account, or someone, even if it was someone a big amount of capital but with low social presence, deciding privately to hedge, like, I don't know if that wouldn't necessarily be the outcome, but it's one of the, I guess, responsibilities and burdens. I mean, by the way, you get all the benefits. The social capital, we were talking with Easy at the top of the show, right? With the social capital that you build up, it's so valuable, and you get all of the benefits. And I guess this is one of the ways the pendulum can swing sometimes, where you kind of, you know, are in the process of tweeting, and it just it has an effect that you didn't think it would go in that direction. So that's one of my reflections. I think the size of the account, maybe even from your guys' perspective, probably matters in some way, but curious if that matters. That's just like me bringing some of the other context into this situation. But any final thoughts, Brad, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I think like everything you said is correct. Like we literally cannot track down every single person with the intention of doing this and weigh them and do this thing. So it was the brazen nature of it to do it on the timeline, and which encourages the behavior for other people. I know he wasn't in isolation. There are others. He won't be the only one that's targeted here if we find other examples of people doing it. The hard part is just like where you draw the line. So I just wanted to be known that, you know, he is the one that owned the weekend socially, and because of that, he is the one that's catching a lot of the attention here, and that's a byproduct of his presence in the space. But it was not personal to him.
Makes sense. Okay. All right, guys. I think that was a particularly emotive subject for some of the reasons that we mentioned. I think we just mentioned some of the arguments for, some of the arguments against. What I always dislike doing is litigating this stuff to death. Like, we put our points out there. Everyone's read the variety of other takes. It's grateful to have Bread with us as well today to like put forward the official perspective and some of the thinking behind the scenes. And then hopefully, from my thinking, and I'm not even involved with the team, like hopefully we can move on and stop piling in on a person and let the team cook, which is what I think they're trying to do and have been doing quite well. So that's my perspective. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you for joining us as always. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X Video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. Thank you to my co-hosts, Legendary and Bread, as always. Thank you for the input of Funky and Easy, who was with us at the top of the show. And we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, guys. Have a wonderful day. Take care, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.